Welcome to Galactic Audiobooks, where humanity's greatest tales of resilience are told. My name is Max, and I'll be your guide through the story that unfolds today. Before we dive into this incredible journey, take a moment to subscribe. It's completely free, and it ensures you don't miss out on more thrilling stories like the one we're about to share. Let's get started. The Galactic Chamber hummed with energy, a vast, imposing room where representatives from hundreds of alien species gathered. Their forms ranged from translucent, shimmering entities to towering figures with sleek exoskeletons, but today, they shared a single purpose: to vote on the fate of Earth. Admiral Cater, his crystalline exoskeleton gleaming like a jewel, stood at the central podium. His 6 muscular arms clicked impatiently against the podium's surface, his gaze cold and calculating as he addressed the assembly. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, Cater's voice echoed through the chamber, every word dripping with authority, a sound carefully engineered to command attention. We gather today to discuss a matter of critical importance: the fate of Solar System 3.31. Specifically its third planet Earth. As soon as Cater spoke the word Earth, the room erupted in laughter. A cacophony of alien voices filled the air, mocking, condescending, and amused. Earth, they all thought, was nothing more than a primitive, insignificant planet. A backward world stuck in the primitive throes of tribal wars and petty squabbles, struggling to even break free of its own atmosphere. From a corner of the room, a representative from the Bka species, an amorphous blob of pulsating neural tissue, bobbed in the air, its gelatinous form wobbling with amusement. Primitive species, it dripped with mockery. They fight over dirt and rock while we, the enlightened, have mastered the stars. They can barely look at their moon, let alone leave their gravity well. Cater's sharp mandibles clicked in response, a smile playing on his face. Yes, they are primitive. But they are advancing rapidly. Our long-range sensors predict that within 50 cycles, they may develop faster than light travel. A murmur swept through the chamber. The Zorn incident flashed in everyone's minds. A moment of uncomfortable silence followed. A once primitive species had obliterated 3 fleets, quantum weapons dismantling the attackers before they even had a chance to retaliate. If humanity could develop similar technology, it would spell disaster for the galaxy. Cater raised his hands, silencing the crowd. Therefore, I propose we move in now, while they are still using chemical rockets. We initiate Standard Containment Protocol 447 and neutralize the threat before they become too dangerous. One by one, species cast their votes. Each species, even the peaceful empaths, despite their hesitation, voted to contain Earth. The motion passed unanimously. As the chamber slowly began to empty, Representative Tillen, an aquatic species evolved from Earth-like sea creatures, floated over to Cater. Admiral, Tillen's voice was low with concern. Have we considered that humans are unpredictable? Their simulations, their media, they've created thousands of scenarios in which they defeat alien invasions. They have an unusual affinity for violence. Cater laughed, the sound echoing through the chamber. Their movies are harmless fantasies. They are still a primitive species with no understanding of real power. Their technology is nothing we cannot handle. But as the words left his mouth, a shadow of doubt began to creep into his mind. Weeks later, the inevitable victory: Admiral Cater's flagship entered Earth's orbit. A grand fleet of 10,000 ships hovered like a storm over the planet. Cater stood on the bridge, staring down at Earth's blue surface. His hands hovered over the control panel as the fleet prepared for what he thought would be a swift and easy conquest. "Admiral, no signs of detection from their primitive systems," reported the sensor officer, his voice calm. "Good," Cater replied, a sinister grin spreading across his face. "Let's savor their panic." The fleet advanced, the ships moving with perfect precision. Every maneuver was rehearsed, every step calculated. But then, suddenly an alarm screamed across the bridge, interrupting Cater's thoughts. "Alert!" The crews scrambled as the sensor officer's voice rang out with disbelief. Multiple objects approaching at 0.15 light speed. Cater spun in shock, his mandibles clicking with fury. Impossible. Their technology can't move that fast. And then it happened. A barrage of high-speed projectiles slammed into the alien fleet. Tungsten rods, traveling at velocities unimaginable to a species that relied on energy weapons, tore through Cater's ships. Shields designed to withstand plasma cannons were nothing more than paper against the onslaught of solid metal. The destruction was swift and brutal. The inevitable victory shuddered violently as it was struck, its hull groaning under the pressure. Cater's heart raced as he scrambled for control. But then, just as he thought the battle was lost, something even more unimaginable happened. A human face, calm, collected, and unfazed, appeared on every screen in his fleet. "This is Amanda Chen, commander of Earth's Defense Force." Her voice resonated with a calm authority that struck fear into Cater's core. "Welcome to Seoul. I see you've met our first line of defense." Cater's mind raced. "This is impossible. You can't have this technology," he spat. "Our intelligence said you were still throwing rocks at the sky." Chen smiled, a calm, almost predatory grin. "We've been preparing for this day for centuries. You've underestimated us." Cater's fleet was in chaos. More ships, small, yet deadly, emerged from nowhere, appearing as if from thin air. Their designs were nothing like anything Cater had seen. Some looked like they had been built from the wreckage of his own ships, pieced together by human hands, yet they were far more efficient and deadly than anything he could have imagined. Their weapons, primitive by galactic standards, ripped through his fleet with a ferocity that sent a shiver down his spine. The inevitable victory's shields flared and cracked under the constant barrage of high-speed projectiles. The images of Earth's unexpected defenses burned into Cater's mind. This was not a primitive species. This was not a world of backwards apes to be easily conquered. They had been hiding something far darker, something the galaxy was not ready for. The panic began to spread through his crew. Ships were disintegrating, systems failed, and the once confident fleet was crumbling under the weight of Earth's unexpected defense. Cater's voice faltered as he tried to regain control. "Impossible, this is a mistake." But it was too late. Earth had already proven that they were far beyond the expectations of the Galactic Council. As Admiral Cater watched in disbelief from the command bridge, his fleet disintegrated piece by piece under the relentless onslaught of Earth's forces. It wasn't supposed to be like this. They had come to Earth expecting an easy victory, primitive humans, with their simple rockets and entertainment-driven fantasies. But Earth's ships, hidden for years in plain sight, had emerged with terrifying precision. "Time for Phase 2, Amanda Chen's voice crackled through the comms, calm and confident, as she observed the chaos unfolding before her. The blueprints of victory that had once seemed so solid for the Galactic Council were now slipping through their fingers. Chen's eyes gleamed with satisfaction as the first wave of Earth's counterattacks surged forward. Ships that had been disguised as asteroids for years now revealed themselves unassuming, small, and built from a patchwork of stolen alien technologies and human ingenuity. The ships moved as one, shifting with perfect synchronization. They were a reflection of humanity itself, chaotic, unpredictable, but strangely powerful when brought together. The first wave of retaliation hit the Galactic Council's forces with surgical precision. Each Earth ship targeted a specific weakness in the alien armada, dismantling them with calculated ferocity. The once proud fleets of the Galactic Council faltered, their advanced weaponry proving useless against the ingenuity of the human-designed weapons. Explosions rocked the space around Cater's flagship, the inevitable victory, as human vessels effortlessly tore through the alien fleet. Earth's ships so seemingly disorganized, with no standard design or coordinated aesthetic, fought with a brutal creativity that the Council hadn't seen coming. The humans' ships weren't just weapons, they were living expressions of Earth's boundless ingenuity. Primitive? No. These were not the marks of a primitive species. The true power of humanity was now clear for all to see. The sound of chaos filled Cater's ears. His flagship, once the epitome of power, was slowly crumbling under the surprise assault. The faces of his crew were frozen in shock. Earth had not only outclassed their expectations, they had shattered them completely. The truth hit Cater like a physical blow. The humans had been playing them from the very beginning. Their primitive society, their entertainment, their so-called wars over dirt, it had all been a carefully crafted smokescreen. And now, as their fleets disintegrated around him, Cater realized that this was no accident. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for far longer than anyone could have guessed. Back on Earth, Amanda Chen's voice echoed through the comms, steady and calm. Phase 2, execute. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of Earth's response. The human fleet broke into smaller units, each one targeting a specific piece of the Galactic Council's infrastructure, the jump gates. These massive, sophisticated gateways, which had been built to facilitate the invasion of Earth, were now the very weapons that Earth would use to dismantle the Council's grip on the galaxy. Human ingenuity had infiltrated the Council's systems in ways they hadn't anticipated. The gates, once a tool of the invaders, now bent under humanity's will. As Earth's ships surged forward, the jump gates began to collapse, their power systems ripped apart by human-made weapons, quantum destabilizers, reprogrammed alien tech, and EMP strikes that rendered their sophisticated networks useless. Cater could hardly believe what he was witnessing. "I don't understand," he gasped, his voice trembling as his fleet crumbled before him. "How did you do this?" Amanda's voice, once again, rang out across the comms, cool and measured. "Simple. While you were watching our TV shows, we were preparing. And now, we're taking your gates and your fleets down." Each word was deliberate. Earth wasn't just defending itself, it was taking control. The jump gates, which had once been the foundation of the Council's expansion plans, were now Earth's weapon of choice. The alien infrastructure, once thought to be invincible, had been systematically undermined by the very species the Council had underestimated. Cater felt his strength drain away as Earth's ships continued to carve their way through his forces. The humans had not only survived, they had learned. They had adapted. And now, they were fighting back with a creativity and power that threatened the very foundations of the galaxy's dominant forces. What had started as a simple vote for containment had escalated into something that the Galactic Council wasn't prepared for. Earth wasn't just a threat. It was a force that had turned the tables in a way no one could have predicted. And now, Cater could only watch as his fleet was dismantled, his plans unraveling, and his once unstoppable invasion turned into a humiliating retreat. The galaxy had never witnessed a spectacle like this before. The once mighty Galactic Council, a body of powerful civilizations that had controlled the stars for centuries, was now in chaos. Cater, the proud admiral, stood shackled in his own flagship, helpless and defeated. His once untouchable fleet was nothing more than scrap metal, scattered across the vast expanse of space. The human fleet, small, ragtag, unpredictable, had torn through everything, leaving the council forces in tatters. Cater's mind raced, still unable to process the devastation. How had it come to this? The humans were supposed to be weak, fragmented, their technology primitive. Yet, they had overwhelmed the greatest military might in the galaxy with sheer cunning and relentless innovation. "We've been studying your archives," Chen's voice cut through the heavy silence, tinged with amusement. "And here's the best part, we've been hiding our technology in plain sight." Cater's eyes widened in disbelief. What did she mean? How could something as advanced as human technology have gone unnoticed by the Council for so long? The answer was simple, and it was staring him right in the face. The humans had been hiding their true potential behind their distractions, their media, their pop culture, their trivial pursuits. They had made the galaxy believe they were nothing more than a species obsessed with entertainment. But in reality, they had built weapons, defenses, and systems of unimaginable power, carefully concealed from the prying eyes of their would-be conquerors. One by one, the other species, members of the Galactic Council, began to surrender. The once unified and indomitable forces of the Council dissolved as they recognized the truth: humanity was not just a threat, it was a force of nature. Too unpredictable, too inventive, too capable to be confined by the rules of galactic warfare. The galaxy was not ready for this kind of opponent, a species that didn't follow the traditional codes of battle and diplomacy. Humanity's unpredictability, it seemed, was their greatest weapon. Months passed, and the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted completely. The Galactic Council, now in disarray, was forced to convene once again, this time to discuss the terms of surrender with Earth. But this time, the humans weren't the ones begging for mercy. They were the ones in control, the ones setting the terms. The Galactic Council chamber, once a place of grandeur and superiority, now felt like a courtroom where the guilty awaited judgment. The humans, led by Commander Chen and Captain Rodriguez, stood at the center of the room, their presence commanding and unyielding. The representatives from the various species shifted uncomfortably in their seats, the once proud and confident leaders now reduced to nervous onlookers. "Your containment vote was a mistake," Chen's voice rang out, steady and calm, but with an edge of authority that cut through the tension in the room. "You wanted to enslave us. Now we're in charge. And here are our terms." The room fell silent as the weight of her words settled in. The humans were no longer the prey, they had become the apex predators. The council members, who had once believed that humanity was a mere nuisance, now realized that they had underestimated them at their own peril. Chen's eyes scanned the room, locking onto each representative as she spoke. First, Earth will be recognized as a sovereign system with full defensive rights. Any species attempting unauthorized entry will be met with our full force. Second, all data about Earth in your records will be corrected. We know about your secret archives. Every attempt you make to control our narrative will be undone. The council members exchanged uneasy glances, clearly unprepared for the sheer audacity of Earth's demands. The tables had turned completely, and they now had to consider how to deal with a species that had been holding back, playing by their own rules all along. And third, Chen continued, her voice firm, every species that voted to contain us will participate in mandatory cultural exchange programs. You wanted to study us? Congratulations. Now, you'll experience our culture firsthand. You'll learn what it means to be human, our history, our creativity, our resilience. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the chamber. The council had expected to dictate terms. They had thought that once Earth was subdued, they would impose their will upon it. But now, it was the humans who were calling the shots. The very species they had intended to control had turned the tables, and the galaxy would never be the same. As time passed, the once unassailable Galactic Council was forced to reckon with a hard truth: they had underestimated humanity. They had underestimated the species that could adapt faster than any other, turn the tables in the blink of an eye, and do it all with a smile. The final, reluctant acknowledgement came as Earth's terms were officially accepted. The Council, unable to fight back against the force of nature that humanity had become, gave in. They had tried to control Earth. They had tried to enslave it, to break its spirit and its will. But instead, Earth had flipped the script entirely, showing the galaxy that their perception of humanity was as flawed as their assumption of superiority. Now, as Earth expanded its influence across the galaxy, new channels of trade and diplomacy began to open. Human ships, once hidden and underestimated, moved freely through the cosmos. Their influence was felt everywhere. Planets that had once been ruled by the Council now sought Earth's partnership. The galaxy, once controlled by an array of advanced civilizations, had a new player in town, and it was clear, humanity had arrived, and they weren't going anywhere. The Galactic Council members, who had once ruled with arrogance, now found themselves bending to the will of humanity. They were forced to adjust to a new order, a new way of doing things. No longer could they ignore the power of adaptability, the strength of the human spirit, and the sheer unpredictability that had now come to define Earth's place in the galaxy. The galaxy learned its lesson: never underestimate humanity. A species that could survive, evolve, and thrive against impossible odds, and now, a species that had mastered the art of turning the tables every time. A year after the humbling defeat of the Galactic Council, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The cosmic balance had shifted, and now, the once proud council members were forced to contend with a universe in which Earth had become a key player. Commander Chen stood on the observation deck of Earth's first official galactic embassy, her gaze sweeping across the bustling spaceport below. Alien ships, once the dominant force, now moved hesitantly, almost stumbling over each other as they entered Earth's trade zones. The sheer number of them, all eager to negotiate, share knowledge, and establish connections with Earth, was a stark contrast to the hostile stance they had once taken. Chen smirked to herself, eyes fixed on the scene unfolding before her. You know what the funny part is? She mused to Captain Rodriguez, who stood beside her, hands folded behind his back, observing the same sight. They could have just asked nicely for cultural exchange in the first place. Rodriguez chuckled, a grin tugging at the corners of his mouth. Where's the fun in that? He replied, eyes gleaming with the thrill of their victory. It was true. The Council could have come to Earth for peaceful cooperation, to exchange knowledge and culture. Instead, they had tried to subjugate humanity, and in doing so, had unleashed a force they could never have anticipated. Now, Earth wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. The once small planet was a new cultural and diplomatic hub in the galaxy. Species from all over came to Earth to experience human ingenuity firsthand. They came for the technology, the culture, the creativity that had helped humans rise from a species on the brink of destruction to one that now held the fate of the galaxy in its hands. And what had once seemed like an impenetrable, stagnant order ruled by the Galactic Council was now a more open and cooperative galaxy. Earth's influence spread, not through force, but through the simple, undeniable strength of human ingenuity and will. Humanity had learned the most important lesson of all, the power of adaptation. It wasn't just about technology, or military strength. It was about how humans could bend, change, and rise above every obstacle, no matter how insurmountable. They had turned a tale of near extinction into one of dominance and leadership in the galaxy, all because they refused to be defined by anyone else's rules. The Council had hoped to enslave Earth. Instead, they had inadvertently given humanity the keys to the galaxy. And now, as Earth's ships navigated the stars with ease, humanity's power was no longer a secret. The galaxy had learned, the hard way, that there was no stopping a species like humanity. And for once, the universe had to reckon with the unpredictable force of human will. Earth was no longer just a small, fragile planet. It was a cornerstone of the galaxy, a symbol of what could be achieved by a species that had fought for survival, fought for its place, and, ultimately, fought back. As the final surrender signals blinked out across the galaxy, one thing became abundantly clear: humanity's story was just beginning.